So now that we have a statement of intent to create a government of national unity, it is time to create a government of national unity. So by the time you're seeing this, there could be negotiations happening about who will be in the cabinet of the South African government. And Byron, it's not as easy as it might seem because ministerial positions are important, but are they as important as people might believe?
Yes and no, because the minister is obviously the figurehead of the actual departments that they represent. And they still need the buy-in of the departments. There's obviously still management, and this is what we typically refer to as the deep state. So there's still a deep state to deal with. That's not going anywhere. No one votes to change that, and they certainly don't get fired overnight. But anyway, the minister does set degrees of policy, and that policy effectively can trickle down into the actual departments that they represent and cause economic or political change, certainly policy change. So let's actually look at who we would want represented in those positions. I'm going to start first because it's the easy one. Ian Cameron for Minister of Police.
I mean, that would be calmer of note because Ian Cameron has a fairly acrimonious relationship with the previous Minister of Police. But assuming that is the case, I think it's a good idea. Though Ian Cameron's a bit young, he's just become a member of parliament, so maybe someone else now and then him later. And the only thing the Minister of Police needs to do is like devolve police and digitize gun licenses. I mean, it is that simple. We don't need fancy stuff here. We just want simple things that work.
That would be swell. Now let's actually move on to another one, which is it's time to get rid of the illegals because by all imagination, South Africa does have an unemployment problem. It's at 40%. On the expanded definition. And if you actually look at it, there are some economists that are basically saying the reason that our unemployment rate is as high as it is because of illegal immigration. There's that many illegal foreigners here. And those foreigners are either involved in crime, see the arguments on police, or they're involved in forms of, should we say, illegal jobs that could be done by a local South African. But either way, we can all agree illegal immigration is a problem. And with that being said, my next minister of choice, Katie McKenzie for Home Office.
Home Affairs. Come on, Byron. You're in the colonies now. You can't be acting like you're in England. We call the Home Affairs here. So please, let's speak properly. So that's what Katie McKenzie really, really wants. But Katie McKenzie is not part of the Government of National Unity yet. Remember, this is why Fikile and Hidden are fighting over like what people sign and can't read for meaning. So he's not part of the Government of National Unity. So assuming he is not for the moment, the cabinet has to be announced quite soon. So I suspect, maybe the DA wants that as well, or maybe even the IFP. But assuming someone we like becomes Home Affairs Minister, what would you want them to do?
Deport all the illegals and invite all the legals, because one of the problems that we currently have in Home Office, is that we don't actually take in all the skilled labor and actually provide them with visas. So there's actually, one of the things that South Africa talks about quite a lot is about, foreign investment leaves the country and no foreign investment comes to the country. There's a reason foreign investment doesn't come to the country. Right? They can't get a visa. Now, if you can't get a visa, you can't stay here. You can't look after the investment that you make. I mean, if you're going to build a factory in South Africa, you clearly want to come sit here and watch your factory grow and then watch it, flourish and employ people and do all the things you need to do. Well, in order to do that, you've got to get a visa, mate. You can't get a visa because Home Affairs doesn't work. So, yeah, get rid of all the foreigners, bring in all the people that actually can add something to the economy, bring in the foreign investment.
Indeed. And the simple solution to all these problems is to just digitize the entire process. Why do people have to go to Home Affairs for a birth certificate? Just log onto the website, get a biometric scan of everyone when they, 18, and then, all your details are there. Boom. ID book couriered to your shack in Shoshanguve.
We're going to use two because they're that important and they're kind of the same, but kind of not. Maybe they'll get rid of one and only have it as one. Who knows? Let's amalgamate those two just for the purpose of this video. Let's say the Minister of Electricity and Minister of Resources, obviously Gwede Mantashe's role. So who's going to take that role?
So that we don't know, but arguably I'm going to say this is one of the most important roles we have at the moment because energy independence is one of the most critical issues facing South Africa. Our preferred independence of energy is coal, mixed in with nuclear energy, mixed in with gas when we need it to fuel those turbines. The current Minister of Electricity has done a relatively good job. He's stabilized Eskom. They are burning coal. They're maintaining the coal fleet. Gwede Mantashe flip-flops like a barbel on a Sunday night when you go fishing in the terrible river. So I don't rate him at all. So I don't know. I don't think the ANC will let go of this position, though. I think they're going to keep it.
No, and Ramakorpa actually wouldn't be that bad an option for it, as you rightly say. He's done actually okay with electricity. You may recall the memes when you first take the role. Remember the meme? You're sat in a coffee shop with Google up going, "What is electricity?" But, jokes aside, he's actually done all right. We haven't had load shedding now for a while. He has helped to stabilize Eskom. A lot of the stabilization, though, has actually been to relax the rules that were imposed on Eskom in terms of environmental standards during De Ruyter's term. A lot of those have been relaxed, and that's allowed Eskom to obviously keep the lights on because they can burn coal and do things that they couldn't really do during De Ruyter's term. But that being said, obviously one of the arguments is that they're overburning coal, they're overburning, the gas turbines, they're not using enough renewable energy. I don't know, man. I also don't care. I just want the lights on. And the lights are on. So with that being said, just give Ramakorpa the job. He's doing okay. Why change what's not broken?
Minister of Finance. So we are a bit of outliers here. We think Enoch Godongwana, the current finance minister, is doing a good job. He is conservative. He's not printing money. He doesn't have a budget for NHI and nonsense like that. I don't mind seeing him in that position for the foreseeable future. I don't think we should change it at all.
No, I'm in agreement. Godongwana is actually doing a great job. There's a lot of things he could do. Occasionally, he kind of takes a populist line when, doing a press conference or sitting down with the ANC guys. And you think, oh, there's the commie we're expecting. But then when the budgets come out, they're practical, they're reasonable. Markets like him. He's doing a great job. He's not being a prick. He's not raising everybody's taxes, till kingdom come. Again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. He's doing fine. Leave him doing what he's doing.
So I'm going to group these two together, health and education. And I think these two are relatively difficult because you got the minister, but for some reason, I learned this very recently, the provinces actually have a lot of sway in terms of how health and education are done. A lot of money is sent to provinces to do these things, which is why the Western Cape is building a school every 2 days, right? Because they just have a very good Department of Education down in the Western Cape. Obviously, East Cape is terrible and all the rest of it. So I don't know if the deal with the IFP should actually go for health and education because I don't think there is actually that much power in those particular portfolios enough to justify not turning them around. I just think it's too much of a risk.
Yeah, now you see, I slightly disagree. I say slightly. So obviously, let's bear in mind that when it gets through to the educational point that you've just made, your point is 100% correct. But that's why they adopted the Bella Bill, because what the Bella Bill was meant to do is actually kind of centralize some of their power back to national government. So they actually had more power in terms of governing the school genetic makeup around the country. So there is that. The health one I'm actually going to address with. I think that's, to me, more pressing, and that is current minister, Joe. He's obviously been a big fan of NHI. He's seen it as being a really big portfolio that he could govern. The previous, obviously, health minister, as you may recall, was Mkhize, and we all know what he did. So it's a good budget. So I'm kind of scared a little bit about leaving it in ANC hands, just insofar as, they may continue to push the old NHI bullshit. Nobody really wants it, apart from, using it as a political form of strategy, which arguably actually backfired against the ANC during the election. The IFP has come out and said that they want to take a rather more nuanced approach to NHI. They've said that they accept that the medical industry needs to be reformed, hospitals need to be reformed, to abandoning the private industry is dumb. Because it would actually just cause more problems than anything else. And I agree with that. So my take is give health to the IFP, give education to the IFP. I wouldn't want to give education to the DA. That's just on a personal opinion, and that's just based on some of the wokey stuff that I see coming out the Western Cape. Probably really wouldn't like to see that nationally. I don't think the IFP would adopt that. I think those are two ministries that the IFP would do very well.
Fair enough. I just think you're not going to see results in 5 years. So that's why I think politically it's not sexy for any party to have them, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. But I see your points. Okay, there's a few that we haven't, like foreign relations, the ANC won't let go. Defense, the ANC won't let go. They need intelligence, the ANC won't let go. They need the security cluster, and they're going to keep it. The most important one that no one is talking about is the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Ibrahim Patel's old ministry. And here's the thing, we need radical reform in that particular ministry because Patel killed trade and killed industry. The irony of ironies, Aaron, he did all of these things through regulations. So if you have a new minister of trade and industry who just says, oh, let's just cross out these regulations, you've already like recovered 5% growth in this country. Like it is that simple.
Very much so, but there's a dual-edged sword to this. The first is that he obviously adopted regulations because it allowed the state to have greater control, right? And this is what people don't understand by licensing. Licensing is a way of state control. Because once the state dictates who gets a license, it says you can only trade if you get a license and meet these criteria, the state controls it. Right? It's that easy. You either follow the rules or we take away your license. And obviously one of the things that the ANC likes is they like licensing regimes because it means that they can adopt any old bullshit that they want. I don't know that ANC would want to see regulations being crossed out. But then I suppose there's another side of me that would remind you of something else, and that is Operation Vulundile, which was Ramaphosa's brainchild when he first came into parliament the last time. And he said that basically what he was going to do is this was going to be the minister and the presidency would be responsible for Operation Vulundile, and they would be responsible for getting rid of all the regulations that currently prohibit business from flourishing in South Africa. So the question could be, which one's actually more important, trade and industry or Operation Vulundile? And I suppose you could, to a degree, actually combine the two and say, well, maybe they're the same thing. Either way, you need to go for a political party that's not the ANC, that's more, should we say, pro-industry. But I come back to the original point I made, and that is I don't think the ANC is going to let this one go because it has too much control for them, and I don't think they want to relinquish that control.
Yes, but also they need an economic growth to survive in the long term. So if they've got the finance minister and you've got economic growth because the DA or the IFP cuts all the regulations to trade and industry, they get more money through the fiscus, they get more taxes, a lot more to spend on the patronage network as well. So it's a double-edged sword. If I was the ANC, I would keep the security cluster, I would keep international relations, I'll keep treasury, I'll keep finance. The rest, let the worker bees do the work. Let the ANC take credit for it. And then in 5 years' time, they can say, Futek, thank you so much for all your help. We are back at 55% of the vote. We don't need you anymore.
ANC was at its highest ever recorded vote count during Thabo Mbeki. Why? Because we had record economic growth and the country is actually going somewhere positive. So what that actually shows you is that economic growth and a positive trajectory in the country actually means positive vote counting for the ANC. So it's in the ANC's best interest to do these kind of reforms, have the 5-10% growth that everybody's hoping and that we'll see. And then, yeah, they will. They'll win the next elections hand down because they can just say, thanks for DA, thanks IFP, you helped us achieve the impossible. Yep, we're back on top, babies. And then I suppose they can just fuck it up all over again.